Let's start the show. You already know who it is. My name is Mike Kyle, aka the Fantasy Vulture. I have over a decade worth of fantasy football experience and have continuously competed for fantasy championships over the course of the past 6 seasons. Let's make it 7 in 2020. But enough of me, because I'm here for you. On today's episode of the FV Show, we are down to the final 8 of our All-32 NFL team preview series, where we take a look at every NFL team through the lens of fantasy football. And we kick off the final 8 with the Washington football team. But before we get started with today's episode and the preview, I need a few quick things from you. First off, smash that subscribe button, power running back style, so that you never miss a video from me. Also hit that like button, like an open receiver downfield, Patrick Mahomes style. And last but not least, you can follow me on all social media platforms at FF Vulture. That is TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also shoot me a text, 330-302-1554. That is going to be my source for all of my fantasy advice this season. And of course, the website is ffvulture.com. If you miss anything, I think I'm going to start porting over some of my rankings there this week. I know I've been a bit behind on that, so I do apologize. But let's jump right in. This is a team that could very well be our shortest preview to date. I don't know what the shortest is, because despite some teams having very limited fantasy options, I have a lot to say about a few of them, so it kind of extends the video longer than maybe it should. But regardless, let's jump in with the Washington football team and their quarterback, Dwayne Haskins. Now, there's a lot of things, and there's a lot of just things floating around the interwebs, a lot of speculation. Alex Smith has made a miraculous return to an NFL field and to an NFL practice after obliterating his leg. I believe it was 2 seasons ago now. And they also traded for Kyle Allen this offseason, having some rapport there with Scott Turner, their offensive coordinator now in Washington, and head coach Ron Rivera. Actually, before we even go any further, thoughts and prayers to Coach Rivera, who just recently announced that he has been diagnosed with a form of cancer. So shout out to him. Health, wellness, and happiness. Tough times. That's it. Like if 2020 could get worse, Ron Rivera getting cancer, like that's something. Because if you've watched any amount of like Ron's press conferences from Carolina, or just any sort of interviews that he's done, like, he's just a super unbelievably kind and generous person, and that comes across extremely well. And so for him to have to go through this really stinks, because he is one of the good ones. But let's get back to Haskins here. This team is going to roll with Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins is Dan Snyder's guy. There is no if, ands, or buts about this. Like, they are buddy. And Snyder's the owner of the team still, as currently stands. So I don't think that they're going to go away from Haskins, despite Alex Smith making his incredible return and them trading for Kyle Allen from Carolina. But in 2019, Haskins' rookie season finished as quarterback 35 overall. He appeared in 9 games, averaged 9.3 points per game, and his new finish is quarterback 40. And this is where we really have to kind of get into the weeds of what Dwayne Haskins did on the field. His weekly finishes last season, he had 1 game as a quarterback 1, 2 games as a quarterback 2, and 6 games as a quarterback 3. He had 119 completions on 203 attempts, 1,300 yards, 100 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. So the reason why that we had to kind of look at this a little bit more in depth than just on the surface is because of the fact that, one, in Washington, he did have a severe lack of cast, like a supporting cast in general was almost just non-existent for him outside of Terry McLaurin, who we're going to talk about in just a little bit. So there was a lack of cast, obviously coming before this new regime. This organization is and has been an absolute disaster. So he's now walking into that situation. Also, not to mention, he is a rookie, and he only appeared in 9 games. So it's important to note that we're really going to look at the game log and what he did once the season progressed and once he really got his feet underneath him as he got acclimated to the NFL. So he basically didn't start, if I remember correctly, he didn't start until week 9. Yes, it was week 9, where that was really when that simply put, is when he started, right? You're only playing one quarterback in the NFL, so it's not like you're playing multiple. And it's important to really note what happened once he progressed throughout that. So his final 3 games of the season, it was 10 points against Green Bay, 21 against Philadelphia, and 14 against the Giants. Now those numbers are not world beating, but the fact that he did string those together in a 3-game stretch is kind of encouraging, just from the fact that, at least he has shown some ability to put up some kind of fantasy numbers. It's not just like you're wasting away. But the moral of the story here with Haskins, I'm just going to kind of cut to the chase here because I don't want to drag this out extremely long. You're not considering Haskins at all whatsoever if you play in a single quarterback league. In a super flex, he's probably one of the last guys that you're looking at, and you're probably trying to stay away from him. The supporting cast here this season is expected to be better, and we're going to talk about some guys in that in just a few moments. But his current ADP is going past quarterback 26, past the 14th round. That's as far back as my data goes. I have him ranked as quarterback 29. It's just a matter of he's a starting quarterback in an NFL team, and he's going to stay that way. But he's probably one of the worst starting quarterbacks, at least from what we've seen so far. Yes, he did have that run, but all in all, he never really did anything that fully impressed you last season. So I'm staying away from Haskins at all costs. Maybe you stream him once if you have to throughout the season. Maybe your quarterback goes down with an injury, or you just need to fill in on a bye, and Haskins just happens to have a really good matchup for the week. That's probably the only situation where I'm ever considering starting Dwayne Haskins, and even so, as of right now, I'm holding my breath while doing so. But let's move on to a guy who is going to take over the Frank Gore role in the NFL, like league-wide. It's Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson might be, what's the right word? He might be timeless, evergreen. I think like those are the 2 words that come to mind. I don't think Adrian Peterson's is ever going to die. How's that? Adrian Peterson, I lied. Adrian Peterson is going to die, but he's going to die on the football field. In 2019, Adrian Peterson finished as running back 28 in standard and 30 in PPR. He was a running back 3. He's 35 years old, and he was getting it done. And this is what I'm talking about. I've always been saying, not only throughout this All-32 series, but also just throughout the course of my fantasy career, quote unquote. For the past 13 years, it's running backs win you championships, and also volume is so important. Adrian Peterson had over 200 carries last season. On that, he averaged over 4 yards per carry. And yes, the receiving work obviously isn't once what it used to be by any means, but he still had 17 receptions and had 142 receiving yards and got in the end zone 5 times. Adrian Peterson is going to have very, very similar opportunity this season, I believe, especially with the release of Darius Geis from the team. It's Peterson, it's Bryce Love, it's Peyton Barber, it's Antonio Gibson, it's J.D. McKissick. Yes, there are a lot of guys here, but I feel like we're really overlooking just how great Peterson was last season. He averaged 8.7 points per game, and like I said, he finished as an RB3, so that's fine, whatever. All 16 games played, and his new finish is running back 40. And the reason why I think that number dropped so low is simply because he was so touchdown dependent for your team last season. So I'm going to pull up his game log just to kind of paint you guys the picture of what this actually looks like for Peterson. So Adrian Peterson had double-digit games basically to close out the season. His weeks 13 through 16 were really great. If you started him, you were very happy, and he had scored a touchdown in all those games. But let me read you off those weekly performances. Week 13 against Carolina, 13 carries, 99 yards, and a touchdown. Versus Green Bay, week 14, 20 carries, 76 yards, and a touchdown. Week 15 against Philadelphia, 16 carries, 66 yards, and a touchdown. And against the Giants, 15 carries, 36 yards, and a touchdown. But he also did a little bit of work in the receiving game on that end as well. Ultimately, Adrian Peterson is going to be a guy that you're looking for touchdowns with. But with this team, I don't know where those touchdowns are going to come. So I'm going to place my money on the guy who's been doing it his entire NFL career and played extremely well all last season in this backfield that has a lot of names to it, but those names aren't talented. Like, if you, like, just in a vacuum, like, forget fantasy. I'm going to say some names. You tell me Adrian Peterson or blank, right? Just give me the answer. Adrian Peterson or Peyton Barber. I'll tell you, it's Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson or J.D. McKissick. Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson or Bryce Love. Now, this one's actually low-key interesting, and it's just simply because of the fact of all the hype coming around about Bryce Love from Washington this offseason and how they plan to use him, how they like what they're seeing so far. And you have to remember that Bryce Love was a Heisman candidate at one point in time, so he is a super talented running back. And unfortunately, just last season, he was injured all year, and that's obviously not going to do any good if you can't get on the field. But Adrian Peterson, at his current draft cost, and as running back 52 in the 13th round, that feels like free money. That feels like finding a free $20 bill, maybe a $5 bill. I'll meet in the middle. Adrian Peterson going at running back 52 is like finding a $10 bill on the ground. Like, yeah, you would love for it to be a 20 or a 50 or a hundo, but finding a free $10, pretty good, right? You can go spend that on whatever you want for the week. Maybe that pays for your Chipotle. So if you need Adrian Peterson as just like a plug-and-play guy as your flex or maybe an RB2 during a bye week, yes, you are praying for touchdowns, but just looking at the opportunity that he has, he was legitimately getting 20 carries a game multiple times, and he probably averaged, now that I'm looking at this, to start the year, he wasn't being fully utilized, but from week 6 on, he was easily averaging about 17 carries per game. That, you're not going to find that in the 13th round. So I love Adrian Peterson for this reason. When I was making my dynasty roster moves and my adjustments for my incoming rookies, I kept Peterson because of the fact that he is going to have a consistent level of opportunity on this team, and they just need some person to score touchdowns here. And Adrian Peterson can do that, and I'm actually looking at this right now. I forgot the G in Washington. Oh, that's going to drive me crazy. Anyway, we're going to keep moving to a player that admittedly I am in love with. And I hate the fact that I'm in love with this player because everybody loves him now. Everybody loves him now, and it makes me so upset because I was in on Antonio Gibson before nearly anybody else. And let me explain. It is April. It's early April. And, obviously a lot of people are, doing their draft scouting and things like that, right? So this is nothing new. And I'm going through my rookies, and I've talked about this before. I watched tape on about 60 or 70 rookies, just trying to figure out who's who can go where, what the skill sets are. And, you watch Antonio Gibson's tape, and you are just blown away. It is so unbelievably good, and just highlight reel one after another. That I don't understand how you can watch that tape and not fall in love, right? So Antonio Gibson is a running back from Memphis. However, he is also a wide receiver. Think of it, Antonio Gibson, for me, the way I very much envision it, if you're into basketball, he's basically a combo guard, right? He can play the point, he can run as the 2, and you're set. You can use him in such a variety of different ways, and he gives you a lot of flexibility in what he can do. The player comparison is Christian McCaffrey. I am planting my flag on it. If I had to take... There's another player that I'm going to talk about in the near future. But if I had to take any of my fantasy takes for the season, this might be one. For the next 7 years... Plant your flag on a player, I think I'm planting my flag on Antonio Gibson. And the reason why his player comparison is Christian McCaffrey is a number of reasons. One, let's go through the stats. This was 2019. He had 33 rushing attempts, 369 rushing yards, 38 receptions, 735 receiving yards, and 12 touchdowns. He's averaging 10 yards per carry. That's actually almost 11. Yeah, over 11 yards per carry. And he's just doing incredible things in the receiving game as well. And he's getting into the end zone. Does that remind you of anybody? Maybe Christian McCaffrey? Maybe. Let's turn this up a notch too. The The Washington football team. Who did they hire as their head coach? Ron Rivera. Where did Ron Rivera coach previously? The Carolina Panthers. Who plays for the Carolina Panthers? Christian McCaffrey. Who's Washington's offensive coordinator? Scott Turner? That's funny. Wasn't he in Carolina last year with Christian McCaffrey? And this team drafted Antonio Gibson in the 3rd round at the start of the 3rd? Really? Nothing seems fishy to you there? Also, not to mention, Antonio Gibson is a beast of a man. Like, he is an absolute physical freak. He's 6 foot, he's 228, and he runs a 4.39. Like, in comparison, like, those are very similar numbers to Denzel Mims. Very, very similar. Like, the range, like, Mims is a little bit bigger, but regardless, like, outside of that, like, those numbers are Denzel Mims numbers. And Denzel Mims has been profiled as this freak of an athlete, and I've talked about him during the Jets preview. I am so in love with Antonio Gibson. I actually have my rookie notes, and I've referenced these a few times. My rookie notes, this is when I was going through those players and watching film on guys, and it's very simple. It says Antonio Gibson, running back, Memphis. What do you mean he's 6? He was listed in the profile I watched. He was listed at 6'2", so this was before. I think this was before the combine where they got like official measurements and stuff. What do you mean he's 6'2"? Question mark, question mark, question mark. All caps, by the way. And he plays wide receiver. And this is the thing that I think is really interesting about Gibson, and this is going to be a platform by platform basis. With Antonio Gibson, you're getting 2 positions in one player. This is a very, very rare feat for a player to accomplish because they are typically so boxed in. But Antonio Gibson could see the Ty Montgomery, Taysom Hill treatment. Taysom Hill is listed in some platforms as a quarterback and a tight end. Ty Montgomery is being listed in most platforms as a running back and a wide receiver. So being able to put Gibson into either of those slots on a week-to-week basis, that just opens up so much flexibility, and I'm enamored by that. That's almost a cheat code for fantasy because 3 players are designated for that. And if he is one of them, I don't see how he's not a first-round pick in Dynasty. Honestly, I am. Can I say this on air? I am considering taking Antonio Gibson with my first round pick in my dynasty league. Like straight up, like it is there. And if I walk away with my draft without Gibson because I have multiple second round picks, I will be sad. So, but let's move away from dynasty. Let's talk about this year, right? Let's talk about this year. His ADP is currently running back 50, going at 1304. So he's actually going ahead of Adrian Peterson by about 2 slots, if my data is correct. Yes, by about 2 slots. I have him ranked as running back 45, so I'm not going to sip the Kool-Aid all the way this season. Like, I do understand the concerns of how much is he actually going to be on the field. Is he going to get the carries? Is he going to get the receptions? Like, which way is this going to go? So I am kind of pumping the brakes on the overall expectation of Gibson. But the talent is there. He's doing work with both the running backs and the wide receivers. This is the team that lacks the weapons in the offense. Like, somebody else has to come in and step up to be the number 2 to Terry McLaurin. Someone has to come in and prove themselves to be the number 1 option in the backfield. Like, both of these things are up for grabs, and Gibson has the talent to take over both of them. And that is so intriguing. And yes, this team probably won't be good this season. Yes, they made improvements, but if they aren't good this season, what does that mean? We talked about this with the Jacksonville Jaguars. If this team is bad and they struggle, they are going to be down points, and that equates to garbage time. And Antonio Gibson could feast in garbage time if given the opportunity. Before we move on with Gibson, actually, yeah, we're going to keep going. I'm going to talk about the guys who I don't have player profiles for, just in a 1-2 hit 'em type of way. But let's move on to our final player of the Washington football team, and that is Terry McLaurin, breakout wide receiver. He's entering year 2 for Washington. In 2019, he finished as wide receiver 24 in standard and 28 in PPR. 3 games as a 1, 2, and 3, so just 3 straight down. 93 targets, 58 receptions, 919 yards, and 7 touchdowns. 11.6 points per game on 14 games played. His new finish is wide receiver 28, so that there's no change there. No change whatsoever in his performance based on adjusted score, which actually kind of stinks, low-key, because with those 2 games missed, like you expect guys to kind of take that jump forward up a spot or two, and he missed 2, and it didn't impact him whatsoever. So that is a bit concerning for me. His ADP is currently wide receiver 27, going at 602. I have him ranked as wide receiver 24. And again, I use a fantasy football calculator for my ADP, and it basically all varies by platform. So once again, I am going to pull up ESPN's live trends right now, because I do know that's the platform a lot of people use. Let's see, live trends. All right, what do we got right here? Terry McLaurin is going at wide receiver 24, so I have him right on line with ESPN's ADP. And I think the really interesting thing here with McLaurin is, yes, the breakout happened, and yes, there were just so many times last season, or just so many individual plays where he really showed how great he could be. But like a few other players who, off the top of my head, I can't fully think. I can. Like DJ Chark and Devontae Parker, we aren't overreacting to McLaurin's play, and I think you're getting McLaurin at a value. And this is a player specifically that I'm trying to not overhype, but you've seen and you've heard Matt Harmon of Reception Perception just gas up McLaurin. The reports out of camp have all been incredibly positive about him. He's just a guy that can take this monster step forward, and you're getting him where he finished last season. So that alone is really intriguing to me, because that means that a lot of people don't actually believe what McLaurin did last year is repeatable, even though all the numbers say he's going to be a stud. There's been conversations that I've had with a few of my friends, and we all play in different leagues, and we all just basically discuss draft strategies, what we're thinking, just some guys that we're hot or cold on. And one of the things that I've been really considering and just thinking about is what happens if you start your first 3 rounds at the running back position. If you start your first 3 rounds running back, and you punt wide receiver, are you cool with Terry McLaurin as your number 1? Are you cool with Robert Woods as your number 1? Are you cool with DJ Chark as your number 1? These are things that I think are just really fascinating questions. Like, McLaurin right now is literally going, let me do that math real quick. Yeah, he's literally going in the 5th round. 5th, 6th round. Like, yes, my ADP says 602. ESPN has him pretty much going in the 5th round. It's very intriguing. Like, if you load up your team, and this is just names that you would probably draft, along the same plane. If you start your draft with Joe Mixon, Kenyon Drake, and Le'Veon Bell, 3 guys that should probably finish in the top 18 at the position. You start 1, 2, 3, bang, bang, bang. And then your 4th round pick is Robert Woods, your 5th round pick is Terry McLaurin, and your 6th round pick is DJ Chark. Where does that put you? Or maybe you draft AJ Green with your 6th round pick. Like, that to me is so appealing, because as somebody who I love the running back position. I've said it time and time again. I firmly believe that the running back position wins you your championship. So to be able to load up at RB and still find incredible value throughout the draft at the wide receiver position, this makes a ton of sense. So you get McLaurin as your number 2, that you're not even relying on him as your number 1 week in and week out. I think, there's room here. There's room here. If you can draft right and you build your team in a place where you don't need to necessarily rely on McLaurin, but you use his talent as the springboard of your team regardless. Does that kind of make sense? You're kind of pulling from 2 different directions. You don't need him, but you're going to use that talent to boost you over the edge. I think it's really appealing where he's currently going. Like, the dip, a lot of people weren't eating the dip, drinking the Kool-Aid on McLaurin. They weren't boosting him up to the top 15 like they are with Calvin Ridley. I think it's very interesting what Terry McLaurin's draft cost is this season. But now, real quick, we're just going to kind of rapid firely go through the other ancillary pieces of the Washington football team. I'm like, who am I talking about here? We're talking about the Washington football team. So there is Antonio Gandy-Golden, just a monster rookie wide receiver. He's just a freakishly large human being and super athletic as well. Kind of think of him kind of like a poor man's Denzel Mims in a way. Doesn't have the name recognition or the hype, but he's just a giant wide receiver out of Liberty. I thought his tape was super intriguing. Do I have my notes for him specifically? Let's see. I do not. That's fine now. Do I? Yeah, I don't have them pulled up. That's fine. Okay. So Antonio Gandy-Golden, freak athlete out of Liberty, just big, strong, tall, fast. If, like I said, this team does need to find somebody to fill the hole in the distance between Terry McLaurin and their number two. Like, that number two role has to be filled. I think Gandy-Golden is a guy who could easily do it if given the opportunity. Steven Sims is the guy that's been getting a lot of hype over the offseason. I think he's interesting if you want to spend maybe your late pick on him, like round 16, 17, 18. I like a deep shot that maybe a lot of people are sleeping on. I think he can be an interesting target there. Plays majority in the slot, and in that slot, like, again, like, you have McLaurin on the outside. Like, let's just fill in that slot gap there. I think that slot battle is going to be between Steve Sims and Antonio Gibson. They'll probably split time there if I had to guess right now. So I think he's interesting. And I think that's it. Those were Bryce Love. Let's just bring him up again too. Bryce Love, former Heisman Trophy candidate, just an absolute beast in college. Was hurt all last season during his rookie year, and now he gets the opportunity. Good things are coming out about him during camp. I believe he's running with the twos and is also getting some work with the ones, if I am not mistaken. So the hype train on him is slowly rising. Does he pass Adrian Peterson? I think there's a pretty good chance in all likelihood. I still like AP more just because I know what I'm going to get week in and week out right now. I'm not going to spend that draft pick on Love. I think I'd just rather pick him up off the waiver wire as the season progresses because I don't think his impact is going to be felt right away. And then Peyton Barber, honestly, I could give two shits about Peyton Barber this season. They're in depth charts hell. Same thing with JD McKissick. Like, I just don't care about those two guys. I think it's very cut and dry here. It's Adrian Peterson, Bryce Love, Antonio Gibson. Like, that's it. That's all I'm worried about with this Washington backfield. But that's going to do it for my Washington football team All-32 team preview. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. We're pretty much doing this every single day now until August 31st or August 30th. I forget what day the series ends. Regardless, we got the rest of the NFC East, and then we got the AFC West as well to round out the series. Also, before we go, be sure to, where's my mouse here? There you go. Be sure to text me 330-302-1554. My source for all my fantasy advice this season. We're going to hit that hard, and it's going to be fun. You're going to get inside information there. I'm really excited to develop that relationship with you, the viewer, whoever you are. Hi, I'm Mike. Nice to meet you again. And then also you can follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. That's Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And of course, the website is ffvulture.com. I'm going to get up out of here. I need to go prepare for the New York Giants coming tomorrow. That's a team that, oh boy, they have pieces, but will they actually materialize this season? We don't know yet. I guess we'll wait and see. So thank you so much for watching. I'm going to get up out of here. Remember, people come and go, but fantasy championships are forever. Later.